Have you ever felt like a puppet, with invisible strings pulling you in every direction? Each nod of approval, every act of kindness, another tug on those strings, until you're no longer sure if you're acting out of your own desires or merely performing for the expectations of others. This, my friends, is the subtle yet insidious trap of people-pleasing. In a world that praises harmony and self-sacrifice, we are taught that pleasing others is a virtue. But ask yourself, at what cost? Have you lost sight of your own values in the endless quest for acceptance? Has the approval of others become the yardstick by which you measure your worth? Let me remind you, the Stoics of old, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, taught us that the key to a life of tranquility lies not in bending to every whim of the world, but in standing firm in our own principles. True freedom is not the absence of conflict, but the refusal to be enslaved by the opinions and desires of others. So I ask you, listener, are you ready to break free? To reclaim the freedom of living authentically, guided by your own values rather than the fleeting judgments of those around you? If so, you are in the right place. Today, we embark on a journey rooted in the wisdom of Stoicism, a path toward autonomy, confidence, and true inner peace. Let's explore 9 Stoic-based methods that can help you stop being a people-pleaser and start living a life of self-reliance, confidence, and purpose. We will begin by delving into the profound insights of the Stoics and how they can guide you in freeing yourself from the chains of people-pleasing. Prepare to face hard truths, but also to discover a reservoir of inner strength. The time has come to stop living for others and to begin living for yourself. Bookmark number 1. Understand your core values. Pause for a moment and ask yourself what truly guides your decisions. Is it your own values, born of thoughtful reflection, or the ever-shifting desires of those around you? For many, the answer is unsettling. In our haste to be accepted, we often lose sight of the very principles that define us. We become chameleons, blending into the expectations of others, and in doing so, we lose the clarity of our own identity. But here lies the crux of Stoic wisdom. You cannot live well if you do not know what you stand for. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Yet how can you be steadfast in your actions if you are unsure of your guiding principles? To live in harmony with yourself, you must first define the values by which you live. Consider this, your values are the compass of your life. Without them, you wander aimlessly, at the mercy of external forces. But once you clearly define them, you begin to chart your own course. No longer swayed by the fickle opinions of others, you stand rooted in your own truth. The Stoics knew that happiness is not found in wealth or status, but in living in alignment with one's values. Whether it's honesty, integrity, or courage, your values act as an internal fortress, shielding you from the chaos of external demands. The stronger this fortress, the less likely you are to abandon it for the fleeting approval of others. So I urge you to look inward. Reflect deeply on the principles that matter to you. Are they centered on wisdom, justice, self-control, or perhaps something more personal? Write them down. Let them serve as your North Star, guiding each decision, no matter how small. When your actions align with these core values, something remarkable happens. A deep and unshakable sense of peace emerges. You are no longer a slave to the whims of the world, but a sovereign over your own life. In living by your values, you claim the only true freedom that exists, the freedom to be yourself. Ask yourself now, what are the principles that you will never compromise, regardless of the pressure to conform? Define them, and you will find that people-pleasing begins to lose its grip on your life. Number 2, recognize the root of people-pleasing. Why is it that we feel an irresistible pull to satisfy others, even at the cost of our own well-being? To answer this, we must look beyond the surface of our actions and venture into the depths of our minds, into the very root of people-pleasing itself. Often, the need to please others disguises itself as kindness or goodwill, but in truth, it is a mask for fear. The fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being enough. These fears grow within us, nurtured by past wounds and experiences where our worth seemed tied to the approval of those around us. Perhaps long ago, you learned that acceptance and safety came only when you met the expectations of others. And so, the habit of pleasing became your shield. But I ask you, is this shield truly protecting you, or is it a prison? The Stoics understood the power of perception. Epictetus famously said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." The fear of displeasing others is not rooted in reality, but in the stories we tell ourselves about what rejection might mean. We imagine that without others' approval, we will be cast adrift, unloved and forgotten. But this is an illusion, a distortion of the mind that chains us to external validation. To break free from people-pleasing, we must first recognize this illusion for what it is. Acknowledge that the fear of rejection is just that, a fear, not a fact. It exists in your mind, and it can be reshaped by wisdom. Reflect on this. If rejection were to come, what would it truly change? Would it strip you of your values, your dignity, or your inner strength? No. These things are within your control, unaffected by the judgments of others. What is beyond your control, the thoughts and opinions of others, belongs not to you but to them. Why then do we give it such power? Look back on your life. How often have you acted not out of desire or principle, but from a need to be accepted? How many times have you silenced your own voice, fearing it might displease someone else? The Stoics would tell you that in those moments, you were not truly living, but merely existing to meet the expectations of others. This, my friends, is not the path to freedom. To recognize the root of people-pleasing is to reclaim your power. It is to understand that the only approval you truly need is your own. When you stand firm in this realization, the fear of rejection begins to fade. You see it for what it is, an empty threat, and you begin to act, not for the approval of others, but for the sake of your own integrity. Take this moment to reflect. What drives your desire to please? Is it born from a genuine wish to help, or from a fear of what others might think? Once you see the root, you can begin to sever it. And in doing so, you will find a new source of strength, one that is rooted not in external praise, but in the quiet confidence of living according to your own values. Number 3, set clear boundaries with confidence. There is a quiet power in the word no. Yet how often do we shy away from it, fearing that it will offend, alienate, or invite conflict? The truth, however, is quite the opposite. To say no when your values are at stake is not an act of rejection. It is an act of self-respect. Boundaries, my friends, are not barriers meant to isolate, but lines that define where you stand. Consider this. Would you allow someone to walk into your home and rearrange your life without your consent? Of course not. Yet when we neglect to set boundaries in our relationships, we do precisely that. Grant others free rein over our time, our energy, and our very sense of self. Stoicism teaches us that we are the guardians of our own inner sanctum, and it is up to us to defend that space with wisdom and clarity. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." But how can this be done if we do not first establish what we will and will not accept? Without boundaries, we drift, bending to the whims of those around us, slowly eroding the foundations of our own values. To set a boundary is to declare, "This is who I am, and this is what I stand for." But make no mistake, setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness or cruelty. On the contrary, it is an invitation to others to respect you. When you establish clear boundaries, you are not creating distance. You are building bridges based on mutual understanding and respect. Those who truly value you will honor these lines, and those who do not are not deserving of your time. The challenge, of course, is in the execution. How do we say no with both firmness and grace? How do we protect our own values without causing harm to others? The answer lies in stoic confidence, the quiet, steady assurance that you are acting in alignment with your principles, regardless of how others may perceive it. Let me offer you this image. Imagine you are a tree, deeply rooted in the earth. The winds of others' desires may blow fiercely, but you do not sway. Your roots, your values, hold you firm. Setting boundaries is like planting these roots deeper, so that no external force can easily uproot you. And in doing so, you gain strength not only for yourself, but for those who rely on your steadfastness. A practical step to begin with. The next time someone asks you for more than you are able or willing to give, pause. Ask yourself, does this align with my values? Will this bring me peace or pull me further away from myself? If the answer is no, respond with kindness, but also with conviction. I cannot do this right now, or I need to focus on my own priorities. These are not statements of rejection, they are declarations of self-respect. Remember, boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about protecting the sanctity of your own life. They create the space for you to live according to your values, and in doing so, allow others to know the true strength of your character. When you set boundaries with confidence, you give the world a clear message. I respect myself, and I invite you to do the same. So I ask you, listener, where in your life have you allowed your boundaries to be crossed? Where have you given too much, expecting nothing in return? Now is the time to reclaim your ground. With each boundary you set, you reinforce the truth of who you are, and in that truth, you will find not only peace, but the respect you deserve. Number 4, learn to say no without guilt. There is a quiet liberation in the word no, yet many of us wield it with hesitation, burdened by the weight of guilt. We fear that in uttering this simple word, we risk disappointing others, disrupting harmony, or worse, losing their approval. But I tell you, saying no is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of integrity. The world will always ask more of you than you can give. Requests, demands, and expectations are unceasing. Yet Stoicism reminds us that our time and energy are finite resources, and how we choose to spend them defines the course of our lives. To say yes to everything is to live without direction, tossed like a leaf in the wind of others' desires. To say no, however, is to take control of your life, to steer your course by the compass of your own values. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And indeed, how much of your time is spent fulfilling obligations that do not align with your true self? How often have you said yes out of fear of rejection, only to feel resentment or exhaustion later? Each time you say yes when you mean no, you betray your own principles. But understand this, saying no is not a rejection of others, but an affirmation of your own priorities. It is not the severing of a connection, but the strengthening of your relationship with yourself. And in this act of self-respect, you invite others to respect you as well. Those who truly value you will understand your no. Those who do not, never truly valued you at all. The guilt you feel in saying no stems from a misplaced belief, the idea that you are responsible for others' happiness. Yet, happiness, as the Stoics teach us, comes from within and is never dependent on external forces. When you say no, you are not causing harm, you are simply acknowledging the truth of your own limits. It is far better to give a genuine no than a resentful yes. Picture this, a well of water, clear and pure. If you allow anyone and everyone to draw from it without restraint, it will soon run dry, leaving nothing for yourself or others. But if you guard the well, ensuring it is replenished and cared for, its waters will continue to flow, nourishing not only you but those around you. In the same way, saying no ensures that you have the strength and resources to give when it truly matters. To practice this, start small. The next time someone asks you for a favor that stretches you beyond your limits, pause, reflect. Ask yourself, does this align with my values and priorities? If it does not, then say no, without apology or explanation. Simply, I cannot do this right now. Or, this does not fit with my current responsibilities. No need for excuses, no need for guilt. Your no is enough. Remember, when you say no to something that does not serve you, you are saying yes to something far greater, yourself. You are reclaiming your time, your energy, and your sense of peace. And in that moment, you are living in alignment with the Stoic ideal of self-governance, where your choices reflect your values, not the fleeting expectations of others. So, I urge you, listener, learn to say no without guilt. In doing so, you will find that the fear of rejection fades, and in its place grows a quiet strength. A strength that comes from knowing you are living true to yourself, guided by your own compass, not the desires of others. And with each no, you will discover that you are not closing doors, you are opening the door to your own freedom. Number 5, embrace conflict as an opportunity for growth. Too often, we view conflict as a sign of failure, a disruption of peace, a fracture in the harmony we work so hard to maintain. Yet the Stoics teach us a different truth. Conflict is not the enemy, but the crucible in which our character is forged. It is in the fire of disagreement, of tension, and even confrontation that we find the opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resolute in our values. Consider this. When you avoid conflict to please others, you may feel a fleeting sense of relief, but at what cost? Each time you surrender to the desire for harmony at all costs, you sacrifice a part of yourself, your voice, your values, your sense of integrity. The Stoics would remind you that true peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of inner strength, the ability to stand firm in the face of discord without being shaken. Seneca, ever wise in matters of human nature, once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Conflict, when approached with the right mindset, is not something to fear, but something to welcome as a chance to sharpen your understanding of yourself and others. It tests your patience, your wisdom, and your ability to remain calm in the face of challenge. In this way, conflict becomes a mirror, reflecting back the areas where you have yet to master yourself. The key, however, is not to seek conflict for its own sake, but to embrace it when it arises naturally, and to face it with the mindset of a philosopher, calm, deliberate, and guided by reason. When you find yourself in a disagreement, do not rush to avoid it or to pacify the other person. Instead, pause. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this situation help me grow in wisdom, patience, or courage? For many, the fear of conflict comes from a deeper fear of rejection. We worry that standing our ground will push others away, that asserting our boundaries will lead to disapproval or even estrangement. But here the Stoics remind us, you cannot control the reactions of others, only your own actions. If you stand firm in your values, acting with integrity and clarity, then the outcome is not yours to fear. Whether the other person agrees or not is beyond your control, and thus not your concern. Imagine for a moment a sailor navigating a storm. The winds howl, the waves rise, and chaos surrounds him. Does he abandon the ship? No, he tightens his grip on the wheel, adjusts his sails, and steers through the storm with focus and determination. So too must you navigate conflict. Hold fast to your values and steer through the tension with calm reason. The storm will pass, and in its wake, you will find yourself stronger for having weathered it. A practical approach to embracing conflict. When tension arises, resist the urge to react immediately. Take a breath, assess the situation, and respond from a place of wisdom rather than emotion. If the conflict challenges your values, stand firm, but do so with grace. Speak not to win the argument, but to clarify your position and uphold your principles. If the disagreement is trivial, recognize it as such and let it pass without allowing it to disturb your inner peace. Remember, conflict is not a sign of failure, but of life itself. It is through facing these moments head-on that we grow into the person we are meant to be. In every conflict, there is an opportunity to rise above petty concerns and to act with nobility, guided by the Stoic virtues of courage, wisdom, and self-control. So the next time you find yourself on the brink of conflict, do not shy away. Embrace it as a path to growth. For in these moments, you will discover the strength of your own character and the unshakable peace that comes from standing true to yourself. Conflict, when met with wisdom, becomes not an obstacle, but a stepping stone on the path to inner freedom. Number 6. Free yourself from the need for external approval. There is a certain kind of prison, one without walls or bars, yet it holds us captive all the same. It is the prison of seeking external approval, the insidious need for others' praise to validate our worth. But what the Stoics knew and what we must learn is this: true freedom lies in the ability to live according to your own principles, without the need for external validation. Think for a moment. How often have your choices been swayed by the opinions of others? How many times have you altered your path, not because it conflicted with your values, but because you feared judgment? We become performers on a stage, waiting for the applause of those around us, forgetting that the only audience that truly matters is the one within, our own conscience. Epictetus, ever wise in matters of personal freedom, teaches us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And yet, how many of us live as though the reactions of others are the sole measure of our success? We hand over our peace of mind to the whims of the crowd, forgetting that we alone are responsible for our happiness. But I tell you now, no applause, no praise, no validation from the outside world can give you what you are unwilling to give yourself: self-respect and inner contentment. Understand this: the desire for approval is a hollow pursuit. It is a bottomless pit, for once you rely on others to define your worth, you will never have enough. You will constantly seek more praise, more recognition, more acceptance, yet the more you chase it, the further your sense of self slips away. Approval from others is fleeting, but approval from within endures. The Stoics teach us that the only thing truly under our control is our own mind, our own judgments, our own choices. You cannot control what others think of you, and to live in constant pursuit of their approval is to surrender your most precious freedom, your autonomy. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. What then could be more important than cultivating thoughts that align with your values, rather than chasing the fickle opinions of others? Picture this: a man standing at the edge of a cliff, holding a kite in his hands. As long as he clutches the string, the kite dances in the wind, but it is never free. It rises and falls, its movements dictated by forces beyond its control. But the moment he releases the string, the kite soars, carried by the strength of the wind. So too must we let go of the string of external validation, allowing ourselves to rise freely on the winds of our own principles. To begin freeing yourself from this need, reflect on the last decision you made based on someone else's approval. Did it bring you lasting peace, or was it merely a temporary relief, followed by the realization that you had betrayed yourself? This reflection is key, for it will show you the truth, that seeking approval from others only weakens your resolve and distances you from your true path. From this day forward, I urge you to take a different approach. When you are faced with a choice, do not ask yourself, "What will others think of me?" Instead, ask, "What do I think of myself? Does this decision align with the person I aspire to be?" In doing so, you shift the focus from the external to the internal, from the fleeting to the enduring. Remember, the only approval you truly need is your own. It is this inner validation that fuels your confidence, your self-respect, and your freedom. And once you free yourself from the need for external approval, you will discover a power within you that is unshakable, a peace that cannot be taken away by the judgments of others. This is the path of the Stoic, the path to true freedom. So I ask you, listener, whose approval have you been seeking? And what might happen if you let go of that need? When you free yourself from the chains of external validation, you step into a life of courage, independence, and unyielding strength, a life lived for your values and your values alone. Number 7, build emotional resilience. In the face of life's many challenges, how often do you find yourself swayed by the tides of emotion? Anger flares when things do not go as planned, frustration builds when others disappoint you, or perhaps anxiety grips you when the future seems uncertain. Yet the Stoics taught us that these emotions, though powerful, need not govern our lives. Emotional resilience is the key to mastering your mind and regaining control over your life. Imagine for a moment standing as a rock in a stormy sea. The waves crash against you, fierce and unrelenting, but you remain unmoved, unshaken. This is the image of emotional resilience, the ability to withstand the storm of external events without being overwhelmed by them. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control the world around us, we have complete control over our reactions to it. And in that lies our greatest power. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In every difficult situation, the choice is yours. Will you allow your emotions to dictate your actions, or will you respond with calm reason and deliberate thought? To build emotional resilience is to learn this truth deeply, that your response to the world is your own, and it need not be driven by impulse. But emotional resilience does not come naturally. It is a practice. It requires self-awareness, the ability to pause before reacting, and the wisdom to reflect on whether your emotions are serving you or undermining you. Consider this. How often have you regretted acting in the heat of emotion? The words spoken in anger, the decisions made in haste, these are moments where we allow our emotions to overpower our reason. The Stoic response is not to suppress emotion, but to recognize it, understand it, and then choose how to act in alignment with your values. Here's how you can begin. The next time you feel the rise of a strong emotion, be it anger, frustration, or fear, do not react immediately. Pause. Breathe. Take a moment to observe the emotion without judgment, as if watching a passing cloud. Recognize that while the emotion may feel intense, it is temporary and it does not define you. Ask yourself, is this emotion guiding me toward the person I want to be, or pulling me away from my true path? Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, offered us this guiding principle. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional resilience is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of it. When you build resilience, you develop a shield, one that allows you to face life's challenges with poise and composure, no matter how chaotic the world around you may seem. Reflect, too, on the nature of emotional resilience as a tool for protecting your inner peace. Life is filled with stressors, work pressures, personal conflicts, unexpected setbacks, but these are mere externals. They only have the power to disturb you if you allow them into your mind. When you cultivate emotional resilience, you create a fortress within yourself, a place of calm and strength that no external force can penetrate. It is from this place that you can act with clarity and wisdom, unaffected by the noise and turbulence of the world. So I ask you, listener, what are the emotions that most often pull you off course? Is it anger when things don't go your way? Is it anxiety about the unknown future? Identify these emotions and begin the practice of resilience. With each moment of pause, each breath taken before reacting, you strengthen your ability to respond to life, not with impulsiveness, but with grace. Remember, building emotional resilience is a lifelong journey, but each step you take brings you closer to freedom. Freedom from being controlled by your emotions, and freedom to live according to your own values. This is the Stoic way, to stand firm in the face of life's tempests, not as a victim of circumstance, but as the master of your own mind, unshaken and resolute. As you cultivate this strength within, you will find that the storms of life no longer have the power to move you. You will stand, like the rock in the sea, calm and unwavering, guided not by fleeting emotions, but by the steady compass of wisdom. This, my friends, is the path to true peace. Top of form, bottom of form. Number 8. Assess requests objectively. Every day you are met with requests, small, large, reasonable, and sometimes overwhelming. Each request carries a subtle weight, for in saying yes, you are giving away a portion of your time, your energy, and often your peace of mind. The question is, are you giving them freely, or are you giving them out of fear of disappointing others? The Stoics taught us that the most precious resource we possess is our time and attention. Unlike wealth or status, once given, these cannot be reclaimed. And so it is essential to guard them wisely, to assess each request that comes your way with the clarity of a philosopher. Seneca reminds us, life, if well lived, is long enough. Yet how often do we fill our days with tasks and favors that do not serve our higher purpose, simply to avoid discomfort or the risk of being perceived as unkind? To live a life true to your values, you must learn to discern which requests align with your path and which lead you astray. Here is the principle that should guide you. Not every request deserves your yes. To assess requests objectively means to take a step back, to pause before committing, and to ask yourself, does this serve my purpose? Does this align with the values I hold dear? In this simple reflection lies great wisdom. For not every act of service is virtuous, and not every yes is an act of kindness, especially when it is given at the expense of your own well-being. Imagine for a moment that your time and energy are a garden. Every request is like a seed. Some seeds will grow into flowers, nourishing you and those around you, while others will grow into weeds, choking the life out of your garden, leaving you exhausted and resentful. You are the gardener. It is your duty to decide which seeds to plant and which to discard. If you give your time without reflection, you allow weeds to overtake the garden of your life. This does not mean you should refuse every request, nor does it mean you should be cold or unyielding. Rather, it means acting with intention. When someone asks for your help, take a moment to consider, is this request aligned with my values? Do I have the capacity to give without sacrificing my own needs? Will this bring me closer to the person I wish to become? In this moment of reflection, you exercise the Stoic virtue of prudence, the wisdom to make decisions that serve both yourself and others. If the request is worthy, if it aligns with your values, then by all means, offer your help generously. But if it does not, have the courage to say no, a no born not of selfishness, but of clarity. For it is far better to offer a thoughtful no than a begrudging yes. When you say yes to requests that drain you or conflict with your principles, you dilute the strength of your character. You become stretched thin, unable to give your best self to the tasks and relationships that truly matter. But when you say no, you preserve your energy for the things that align with your values, the things that allow you to grow. The Stoics believed in the importance of living with intention. To simply react to every demand placed upon you is to live passively, to be a servant to the desires of others. But to pause, reflect, and assess each request with clarity is to live as a philosopher, calm, deliberate, and in control of your own life. The next time someone asks for your time or energy, remember this: you are not obligated to say yes. You are free to choose. In that moment of choice lies your power. Assess the request through the lens of your values, and let your answer reflect the person you are striving to become. So I ask you, listener, how many times have you said yes when you knew it should have been a no? How many times have you allowed the desires of others to dictate your day, your mood, or even your life's direction? It is time to reclaim your ability to choose. In doing so, you will discover that each no becomes a yes to yourself, to your peace, and to a life lived with intention. Assess each request not with guilt, but with wisdom. And in that wisdom, you will find the freedom to live on your own terms. This is the path of the Stoic, to give, not out of obligation, but out of strength and clarity, knowing that each yes and each no is a reflection of your deepest values. Number 9, commit to small changes. Great transformations do not happen in a single moment. The road to freedom from people-pleasing, like any path to wisdom, is paved with small, deliberate steps. It is not the grand gestures that shape our lives, but the small, consistent changes we commit to each day. This is the way of the Stoic, to master ourselves incrementally, refining our character through each small victory over impulse and habit. Too often, we seek immediate change. We tell ourselves that tomorrow we will be different, stronger, more resolute. Yet when faced with life's demands, we fall back into old patterns, overwhelmed by the enormity of transformation. But I tell you, listener, true growth is not born of sudden revolutions, but of steady, patient progress. Epictetus, a master of gradual self-improvement, once said, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." So it is with your journey. The change you seek will come, but it will come through the small choices you make each day. If you wish to free yourself from the compulsion to please others, do not seek to change everything at once. Instead, commit to one small challenge today, a moment where you honor your values over external demands, where you say no to what does not serve your purpose. Perhaps it is declining a request that pulls you away from your priorities, or setting a boundary with kindness but firmness. These are the small victories that, over time, will fortify your spirit. Imagine, if you will, a sculptor shaping a statue. With each small strike of the chisel, the stone begins to transform, revealing the form within. The sculptor does not demand that the stone change all at once. He knows that beauty comes through patience and precision, each small strike bringing him closer to the masterpiece. You are that sculptor, and your life is the stone. Each small act of courage, each moment where you choose to live for your values rather than others' approval, is a strike of the chisel, shaping you into the person you are meant to become. The Stoics knew that habits are the foundation of character. Just as a river carves its path through persistent flow, so too will your actions, repeated over time, shape the contours of your soul. Each time you say no to something that drains you, each time you set a boundary that protects your peace, you are carving a new path, one that leads not toward the fleeting approval of others, but toward the solid ground of self-respect. Start small, but start now. Commit to one change today. It may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, these small changes will build upon one another, creating a foundation of strength and autonomy. And as you continue, you will find that each small victory makes the next one easier. What once seemed difficult, saying no, setting boundaries, living true to your values, will become second nature, a reflection of the person you have become through steady effort. But remember, as with any great work, patience is key. There will be setbacks, moments when you fall into old habits, when the pull to please others feels overwhelming. In these moments, do not despair. The Stoics understood that growth is not linear, it is a spiral, where we return to our lessons again and again, each time with a deeper understanding. When you falter, reflect, adjust, and continue forward. The path is long, but it is yours to walk, one step at a time. So I ask you now, listener, what small change will you commit to today? Perhaps it is as simple as taking a moment of reflection before responding to a request. Or perhaps it is daring to decline an invitation that pulls you away from your true priorities. Whatever it is, know that this small step is the beginning of a larger transformation. Commit to small changes, and over time, you will find yourself transformed, not by dramatic leaps, but by the steady accumulation of choices made in alignment with your values. This is the Stoic way: to live deliberately, to grow patiently, and to shape your life with the wisdom that comes from small but powerful acts of self-respect. In these small steps, you will find the strength you seek, and in that strength, you will discover the quiet peace of a life lived with intention. The change begins today with one small step toward your true self. As we come to the end of this journey, let us reflect on what has been revealed. The path to freedom from people-pleasing is not one of sudden transformation, but of deliberate, daily choices. Choices grounded in the wisdom of the Stoics and aligned with the values that define who you are. You now know that true peace and happiness cannot be found in the approval of others, for that approval is fleeting, like a shadow that disappears with the setting sun. Instead, peace is found in the quiet confidence of a life lived according to your own principles, unshaken by the shifting opinions of those around you. This, my friend, is the essence of Stoic wisdom: to control what is within your power, your actions, your thoughts, your values, and to release everything else. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And what greater thought is there than this? I live for the truth of who I am, not for the fleeting praise of others. When you internalize this, when you allow it to guide your actions, you will find a strength within you that no external force can diminish. The tools are now in your hands. You have learned to understand your core values, to set boundaries with confidence, to say no without guilt, and to embrace conflict as a means of growth. You have seen that the desire for external approval is a chain that can be broken, and that emotional resilience is the key to withstanding life's many trials. But most importantly, you have come to realize that great change does not happen all at once. It is the small, steady steps, the choices you make today and tomorrow, that shape your future. With each act of courage, each moment where you honor yourself over the demands of others, you are chiseling away at the stone of your old habits, revealing the true strength within. Now, the final question rests with you. Are you ready to live this truth? To begin, not with a grand proclamation, but with a simple commitment to yourself, that you will live according to your values, that you will honor your own path, and that you will no longer sacrifice your peace of mind for the fleeting satisfaction of others. If the answer is yes, then the journey is already underway. Each choice, each boundary, each small change will lead you closer to a life of freedom, confidence, and unshakable self-respect. This is the life the Stoics spoke of, a life where you are the master of your own mind, no longer swayed by the winds of external opinion, but standing firm like a rock in the sea, calm and resolute. So, as you leave this place, take with you the words of Epictetus: "No man is free who is not master of himself." You now have the knowledge to master yourself, to free yourself from the need to please, to live for your own principles, and to face life with the strength of a Stoic philosopher. The world will continue to ask much of you, but now you have the wisdom to choose what is truly worth giving. Live for your own values, and in doing so, you will live a life of peace, power, and purpose. The journey begins now, a life lived not for others, but for the truth within you. And in that truth, you will find your freedom. If you're ready to live with clarity, purpose, and unshakable inner strength, subscribe to the Ultimate Stoicism channel today. Here we dive deep into the timeless wisdom of the Stoics, providing you with practical tools to master your mind, overcome challenges, and live a life guided by your values. Join us on this journey to self-mastery, because the path to true freedom begins with wisdom. Don't miss out, hit subscribe, and start your transformation now.